Hi everybody, welcome to my channel, Life, Law, Fin. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today I am especially pleased because I have with me Mrs. Mary Pryor QC. So welcome Mary, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Nia.
It's such a pleasure. And today we're going to focus on Mary's journey into the law. And as many of you know, she is an outstanding criminal practitioner, and she does have quite a bit of achievements under her belt. Now, Mary was given the Women of the Year in Women in Law in 2020. She's a leading criminal silk, and she's also a part-time circuit judge, a recorder. She's also the co-chair of Women in Criminal Law, and that's the Midlands Forum. She's the chair of the Midland Circuit Social Mobility Program. She's also a visiting professional fellow at Aston University. I see Mary settling in as I list these achievements. She's also a Bar Council social mobility advocate. And we do know that her accolades are quite striking because the Legal 500 describes her as extremely robust and commanding the respect of the courtroom. Now, her most recent achievement, she's been appointed the vice chair of education for Gray's Inn. So that was a mouthful, Mary. Welcome. Thank you very much for coming to the channel. I know that you will shed some wisdom and some inspiration, some encouraging words to the viewers, as many of aspiring barristers do follow you because you have a prominent social media presence. So thanks for coming.
It's a great pleasure.
Thank you, thank you. Now, let's start from the beginning because I myself, as you know, before we started rolling, for lack of a better terms, I recruit or I find guests to come on the show by politely stalking them, as I said before. And I recognize that one thing about you is that you are a champion for um, diversity, equality and diversity, those that come from underrepresented backgrounds. And you yourself come from a non traditional background into the law. So let's begin the actual beginning of your journey into law. So tell us a bit about your educational experience. So tell us about your degree, what you studied.
Okay, well, I think to understand my degree, you need to understand a little bit about how I got there. So, I grew up in a coal mining community, initially in the northeast of the country, up the other side of Northumberland. And when I was five, um, or about five, maybe four, our entire community moved from there to the Midlands, to Stoke-on-Trent, because the pits where my father worked closed. And so we all emigrated to the Midlands with thick Geordie accents and a Geordie way of life. And we moved from living by the sea to about as far away from the sea in the middle of the country as you can get. So it was a massive change for everybody. And I went to the local primary school and the local secondary school, which was an interesting place. It had the highest juvenile crime rate in the county. And at some stage, I worked out I was quite clever. I did all right in my GCSEs, and I did all right in my A levels. There were difficulties. My father broke his back when I was five, not long after we'd moved to Stoke-on-Trent. And so I grew up a lot of time with either no real money or very limited money within our household. And that's a bit like having a big sign over your head. It is so obvious that you don't have things. And you learn to make a lot of excuses why you don't have things. No, I didn't want anything from the shop. It's a silly shop when you're on a school trip. Or no, I don't want to go on that school trip. Or no, I don't want to go to the stupid disco that I desperately want to go to, but I can't go to because I've only got this one extra outfit and I wore that at the last thing, so I'm just too embarrassed. That kind of thing. So I'm the youngest of 5 children. My 2 brothers left home at 16 and joined the army. And my 2 sisters left home at 16 and went off to become nurses. And I had no idea what I wanted to do, except I knew I didn't want to get pregnant. And that is what a lot of people of my age did then. So 16-year-olds were often having babies. And it just seemed like such a hard life for me. I didn't think that I had the capacity to be a mother at that age. And so I looked out of the box. And funnily enough, I got bullied in my last year of A-levels. And I had to leave school because I just couldn't deal with it anymore. Moved to live with my sister in Essex and did my A-levels within the 2-year period. I worked 2 jobs to get my A-levels finished. And one of the A-levels I could do in a year was law. So that's how I ended up doing law. It never occurred to me in a million years that I might be a lawyer. And then I got a place at a polytechnic in Essex, so I could stay near my sister and work. And I started a law degree. And I did the law degree because I thought, you know what, it'll be a good degree to have. I'll get a good job at the end of that because I'll have a good degree. I had no money, so I worked every summer, every winter, and at night time during my degree. And in the middle of my second year, my dad died in the middle of my second year exams. He had lung disease from being a coal miner, and he'd always been poorly. So I was 21 when he died. I had to redo that year. And then I finally finished my degree. When I finished my degree, I didn't think about being a lawyer. There was a big book then called Graduate Jobs. I applied to every job in the graduate job book. I got a lot of rejections. And I got one job, which was working for a company that sold Volvo cars. I was hopeless. I was hopeless at it. But I stuck it out for a year, and then I saw another job with Essex Magistrates Courts Committee as a magistrates courts clerk. Brilliant job. Absolutely loved that job. Did that for 6 years. They paid for me to qualify as a lawyer. And the reason I became a barrister was because the solicitor's course was full. So even then, it never occurred to me that someone like me could become a barrister. And it was actually when I went to do that course, I think for the first time in my life, I realized that I was really quite clever, because the barrister's course is really a very practical course, using the academic knowledge that you have and translating it into real life experiences. And that was the sort of thing that really just interested and excited me. So I found at the Christmas exams, I'd done really, really well, quite surprisingly well. And I was getting things like, I got 92% in crime and 97% in civil. And I remember opening these results and just going, what? How? And so I then thought, well, maybe I could. I have to say that the people around me were not people like me. For the most part, they seemed very, very privileged. You could only do the bar course then in one place, which was in the middle of London, next to Gray's Inn, actually. And so there was about 340 people doing this course, and I felt like an alien to a large extent, until eventually I found 1 or 2 other people who were either mature students or other magistrates clerks, or had come to the bar in an unusual route. And I made friends with those people, and I passed the bar course. And then because I'm so old, at that time you had to pay to do pupillage. Well, that was never going to happen. I couldn't possibly do that. But I did manage to get sponsored pupillage with a CPS. So I went to Devon and Cornwall. I spent 6 years there. It is a great job. If anyone is thinking about the Crown Prosecution Service, it's a tremendous employer. They give you all manner of training and work experience, and it's a really diverse employer. They work extremely hard on fair recruitment. And I learned a huge amount. And then after 6 years, I noted that they were offering redundancy because they had too many members of staff. So the redundancy money was enough for me to go to the bar. So with a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a baby, I decided I'd give it a go. My husband at the time wasn't working. So I knew it was all going to be down to me. I applied, I think, to every set of chambers in the country. I got a lot of rejections. And I got one offer from a set of chambers called Clock Chambers in Wolverhampton. It's a sort of chambers that people sniff down their nose at, a very small set, not the sort of place that someone who is going to achieve a great deal would be at, you might think, at face value. But I took that chance and I built a practice for myself. And within a few years, I was headhunted, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Wow, Mary. Wow. That is definitely a journey riddled with adversity. And it makes sense because every time, and anyone that interacts with you on social media or sees your posts would always tell themselves, oh, she's very positive. Every time she's very positive. Doesn't matter if a student is speaking about a hurdle that they're trying to overcome in life, or it's a post where you're offering congratulations. You're always very positive, and you're always telling us, well, don't worry, you can overcome it, you will overcome it. And I think it becomes more powerful, the narrative becomes more powerful because of your background. So we do know, okay, this is a shining example of someone who did overcome. So it's not as though she's sitting on privilege saying, don't worry, you will overcome, but
Yeah.
she walked in those shoes. So I definitely, yeah, sorry, Mary, I think you were about to say something.
I was just going to say that it is not really possible, I think, for people who haven't felt less than to understand the hurdles that someone faces. It is it is so overwhelming sometimes to look at all that you have to do and to deal with all that you have to deal with and think, I can do it. But honestly, you can. You can do it. I did it. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Inspiring indeed. Now, I know most of the time, most of us genuinely look for scholarships as well. Did you yourself go looking, or did you obtain any financial assistance to assist on this journey at all?
No, I didn't know about scholarships. And just on that point, it really makes me cross when you see people saying, well, if you wanted to be a barrister, then you'd have done all the research and you'd have known all these things. That's that comes from a position of privilege, of having grown up in an environment where you've been taught what to do if you need to find something out. And it assumes everyone has unlimited minutes of data on unlimited devices and an understanding of the system as a whole, which most new entrants from families into the profession don't. In fact, many university lecturers don't know the ins and outs of what's available. So I didn't apply because I didn't know that they existed. I didn't know about Inns of Courts until I applied to go on the bar course. I didn't really understand what they were or what difference they might make. But what I do know is that the internet now and social media that's available means that it's much more accessible to students. They may not be able to think about looking up an inn of court, for example, but they may follow other people and they'll see that they're members of an inn. And then they'll ask the question, well, what's this about? And I think the one thing I would say about scholarships is having sat on a variety of scholarship panels, interview panels, and been part of a film that Gray's Inn have produced to show you how to prepare for a scholarship interview and what we do when we're interviewing you, is that the more information that we can give students about what is available, the better for everybody, because we want the brightest and best to succeed in this profession, regardless of whether they've got money or not behind them. So we often, particularly at Gray's, we often give scholarships to students from universities where other students at that university might think, well, there's no point applying because they won't give someone like me a scholarship, but we do. We regularly give high scholarships to people from non-Russell Group universities and to people who've had an interesting journey to the bar. Because what we want, what the profession as a whole wants and needs, is that our profession reflects the people who live in the society we serve. And we can only do that by reaching out.
This is very interesting because I bring my international student perspective to the fore. When I traveled to the UK at 18 years old to embark on an LLB, I didn't very much value and critically understand the division between a barrister and a solicitor, because in Barbados and in most of the Caribbean there's no division. You are an attorney at law. So when I came, for me it was almost like stumbling upon new information. So okay, what would make me right for the bar, or what would make me right to become a solicitor? And it was, to me, when I was leaving third year, it was when I had this idea, this initiative to start Life Law BIM, because I recognize that, especially for some international students, there is a gap of knowledge that needs filling. I wasn't sure necessarily what the steps were to become a barrister. All I knew was, okay, I need to go to law school. But then it was like some of my friends were saying, well, which one? Are you going to do the LPC or are you going to do the bar course? And I didn't know, okay, well, there's scholarships available. And it doesn't mean that I didn't have an interest in pursuing the bar at that time. It was just that from the position I was coming with, I just was clueless. I didn't know. And even the talk sessions or the workshops that the universities would organize for us, the truth is, I more so saw solicitor firms coming in to talk to us about training contracts. So I quickly understood that route quicker than I did understand the bar. And I remember being told, please make sure that you do understand the difference between these two, because you need to know your limitations, because the bar is very expensive. And it was almost like, I felt to myself, okay, well, they're saying this, so is the bar ready for a person like me? Can a West Indian come over here and thrive? We're not really very familiar with the division of the two. Should I just stay in my lane? Should I just what should I do? Should I just get the degree and just return, and with a sense of some kind of defeated attitude? Because I learned about the bar as this, the way it was introduced to me was almost like, many of you will fail trying to get it done. So why not really sit down, sit back, and really think about if you're clever enough to pursue it. So that's why I thought it was interesting that you said it's not about persons not being interested enough to research it. It's a position of privilege to know, right, you need to join an inn of court. There is the bar course. There is this word called pupillage. And by the way, outside of our little network of aspiring barristers and barristers, I am telling you, the average person doesn't even know what pupillage is. When you say that word, they're like, what? Just say it's a fancy word for work experience,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know. And
yeah.
it's very interesting that you said that, because it is true. It is a point of privilege to know all these steps. So that really resonated with me.